Hi everyone, this is Sandy from the Board of Realtors office, and we're going to go over the lead paint forms that we gave you as an example so you could try to identify what was wrong with them. And starting with the first form, we have the sellers filling out the exact same thing, that they have no knowledge of lead-based paints. They have checked off appropriately as indicated, and they've also checked off that they have no reports to provide to the buyer. So then we get into the purchasers, and this is where the things have changed to a certain extent. As you can see, there are initials from both a buyer, two buyers, but they're kind of slapped on all of the lines, two of the lines, one of the lines, we're not really sure. So this would clearly be an issue with this form. The buyer has not individually identified what they are checking off or initialing. So in this case, the buyer has not received any copies of documentation listed above. There are no documents listed above. They should not initial line C. But line D is clearly something that they should initial, that they have received no documents. So if we give this a benefit of the doubt and we say those initials are actually on line D, okay, then that would be acceptable. But then that leaves E and F blank. Now E goes on to say that they've received a copy, which is required by law, of the lead paint property transfer notification. And that's not what you're looking at right now. It's the previous 10 pages that go along with this form. So have they received that? You sure hope so, and you better have them initial it because that saves you from having violated the law. The second thing is that the purchaser is going to indicate below. They should initial F as well. And they have to pick between 1 and 2 to check off. They've checked off number 2, so that while it appears okay in our scenario that we gave on the website, we said that there were no changes to the purchase and sale agreement. And so what I'd like to do is just direct you to paragraph 20, the lead law section, because perhaps you don't know this exists. It gives buyers a contractual right to inspect for lead and to get out of the contract should they find an unsatisfactory inspection. So according to this clause, it can fall into line with the home inspection contingency dates. And should there be no home inspection contingency dates, if your buyer has waived a home inspection contingency, then they are still granted 12 days after execution of the agreement to inspect for and get out of the contract for lead-based paint issues. So unless this is stricken or unless there are terms written into the purchase and sale that say they are waiving their right, they probably have not. And so you'll really want to rethink this line right here. Going down, the seller's agent's initials appear to be correct. The best buyer's agent's initials also appear to be correct. Remember to read what you're signing and initialing, that you've actually done what they've asked you to do. And then we go down to the certification the seller has signed. Now they have signed many months prior, and that's perfectly acceptable. Obviously, when you upload the lead paint form, it's based on the date that the listing is taken. It shouldn't have changed since then. If the seller learns of anything, they obviously have to update this form. But other than that, it's perfectly fine. You can see the buyer dates are consistent with a purchase and sale agreement. You will want to confirm for your records that this was signed prior to the purchase and sale agreement, as is required by law. And again, you can see the seller's agent chose to sign this form back in the day when their seller client did. So in this case, we're looking at a $30,000 fine just for those kind of minor errors, primarily this bad initialing job done as perhaps part of ZipLogix or one of the form softwares. So very important that those get on the lines and appropriately done. On the next form, again, the seller's disclosure remains the same. They have no knowledge and they have no documents. Unfortunately, right here under D, we've missed the purchasers initialing on the line that they have received no documents as is required. So that's a $10,000 fine. On number 2, we have initials as opposed to the checks as indicated that they wanted on this line. And again, I would question whether they truly waived that opportunity or if they received the 10-day opportunity. So this could be an error too, but even having initials instead of checks would or potentially generate a $10,000 fine. So far we're up to $20,000. It appears the seller's agent has initialed correctly. The buyer's agent has initialed correctly. We're looking at dates. We see that the dates appear to be before the contract was executed. And so this one, very mild, $20,000 fine. All right, number 3. So it looks like they've signed all the appropriate lines, but only one of the buyers has indicated initials on any of these lines. So you are technically missing buyer number 2, buyer number 2, buyer number 2 on all of these lines. So that's $30,000 right there. They've indicated that they've received a 10-day opportunity to inspect. That's great. You will note checks and X's are considered the same. X's became accepted when we did online forms and had to basically X things as opposed to checking. So in this case, we're assuming that this is maybe a handwritten check, and then these are computer generated X's. But they're both considered checks for the purposes of this form. We go on, seller's agent has initialed appropriately, buyer's agent has initialed appropriately. Again, the seller signed, and here is a major issue. We said that the purchase and sale agreement was entered into on the 1st of the month. This is signed by the buyers on the 5th of the month. Therefore, the agent, who has also failed to sign, is in violation of the lead paint law. They did not provide this form and have it signed before the execution of a purchase and sale agreement. And so we're looking at, I'm not sure if it's one time $10,000 fine or if it would be 2 because they failed to provide it to both buyers in a timely manner. But I would just say, with everything that's wrong with this form, it would be looking at a $50,000 fine. We have 3 issues up here, and then obviously the dates are of importance, and then the buyer's agent forgot to sign at the bottom and nobody caught it. And then the last form, hopefully everybody loved and could find nothing wrong with. The buyers have initialed all the appropriate lines. They've checked off that they've received their opportunity to inspect. The seller's agent has initialed where they've been asked to initial. The buyer's agent also initialed. The seller signed. The buyers, you can see, signed before the purchase and sale agreement. That's great. They should actually be signing as soon as they can because it means that they're making an informed decision about what they're offering on the purchase price. So they've made that signature probably when they started negotiations. It was executed on the 1st, so that falls into line there. And this form has been done appropriately. So all in all, we looked at 4 forms. 3 of them had issues, and those issues could have resulted in $100,000 in fines. So when an agent says to you, oops, I'm missing a signature here, or I'm missing an initial here, please don't get cranky. Say, thank you. You just saved me potentially a ton of money and from violating license law. So hope that helps you understand the lead paint form a little bit better.